Day 3 of the NFL draft is now in the books, and the draft is over for our Chicago Bears. They went defense on day 3 in rounds 4 through 7. But the biggest question is, was it enough? Y'all know we going to talk about it, break it all down, but you got to hear the music first. What's going on, Chicago Bears fans, and welcome back into another episode of Chicago Bears Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bears. I'm your host here, Bobby, bringing you the latest surrounding the NFL draft and our Chicago Bears on the final day of the draft. So if you are tuned in, make sure you go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, man. Hey, the Chicago Bears in the rounds 4 through 7, they went out there and selected cornerback Malik Muhammad, linebacker Keshan Elliott, and defensive tackle Jordan Vandenberg to go out there and finish the draft for the team. Now, we're going to break down each individual. We're going to talk about what they could potentially bring to the team, and we'll see what happens once the season rolls around. Let's get started off with Malik Muhammad. Malik Muhammad is a cornerback from Texas. Last year, Malik Muhammad had a total of 30 tackles in 11 games, 2.5 tackles for loss, and 2 sacks with 2 interceptions. Now, when we talk about Malik Muhammad out of Texas, I think that he is a guy that could potentially bring in something, not necessarily everything, to where you want him to be a starter for this team, because we have to remember that Jalen Johnson is going to hopefully remain and be coming back healthy. Same thing for Kyler Gordon. Same thing for Tyreek Stevenson. Same thing for Zay Frazier. Same thing for Terrell Smith, and so on and so forth. But this is a solid piece that matches the makeup of Dennis Allen defensive scheme, and I think that he could bring a lot to the Chicago Bears, but I don't necessarily think he'll be starting or playing many games in 2026. Now we move on to linebacker Keshan Elliott. He comes in at 6'1", 231 pounds, ran a 4.58 40-yard dash coming out of Arizona State. This is a guy that, when you watch the tape, I think is very, very intriguing, at least in my personal opinion. In 12 games at Arizona State, had a total of 98 tackles, 14 tackles for loss, and had 7 sacks. I think that's very, very impressive for a linebacker coming out of Arizona State. I'm not going to go out there and discredit anything that he had going on at Arizona State. However, my biggest question for Keshan Elliott is, how well does he perform in coverage? That's all I want to know. Because when you go out there, you search and you look for him, all you see is him going out there and making tackles in short yardage situations, to where that's a running back going out there running a rock, or something looking like a screen play, a short yardage pass play. So I want to know, how well does he perform in coverage as a linebacker? I give him a lot of credit for going out there and being able to navigate through certain looks to go out there and make tackles versus the opposing team. But it's still one of those things to where you look at it and you say, hey, the Chicago Bears have CJ Edwards. You have Noah Sewell still on the roster. You just brought back Jack Sanborn. You just signed Devin Bush. So it's one of those things to where you look at a guy like Keshan Elliott and you say, hey, I like his tackling ability, but I have to be honest and ask the question, what does his coverage skills look like on tape, since there is not much out there for him as a linebacker that could potentially have some type of role on the Chicago Bears. And then the last player we're looking at is Jordan Vandenberg, defensive tackle coming out of Georgia Tech. Started off his college career at Penn State. Last year, played with Georgia Tech. Had a total of 44 tackles, 11 tackles for loss, and 3 sacks. When you go out there and watch the tape and watch what's available for him, you see a lot of effective play. Not dominant, but effective play. And I think that you look at Jordan Vandenberg and you say, hey, can he go out there and penetrate and be effective against the offensive line? Yes. Can he go out there and potentially be somebody that helps the Chicago Bears in run defense? Yes. But my biggest question is, going along with Keshan Elliott, is on passing downs. How well can he affect the line of scrimmage during passing downs? That's going to be one of the biggest questions that I have for a guy like Jordan Vandenberg. I think that all these guys have potential to potentially be in the rotation for the Chicago Bears. However, I just don't necessarily see it right now. I think there is so many moves that have been made over the last few seasons to where the Chicago Bears have built up such a great resistance, I guess that's for a lack of a better word, for others to come in and be a part of the rotation. And I think that when you look at the cornerback room, considering how many cornerbacks we have already on the team and coming back from injury, that kind of hinders some of these younger guys for getting minutes in the rotation. The same thing can be said about the linebacker group with the Chicago Bears bringing in Devin Bush, having TJ Evers return, having Noah Sewell return off of injury. We'll see what's up with that. Having the Chicago Bears re-sign DeMarco Jackson, and then you're looking at defensive tackles to where the Chicago Bears went out there and signed Gallimore, went out there and paid Grady Jarrett last season. The expectations for a guy like Javon Dexter. I think that is going to be tough for these guys to go out there and crack the rotation. It's not necessarily saying that they can't do it. I just think that they really, really have to pop off in minicamp, in training camp, in preseason, and then hopefully maybe one of these guys that the Chicago Bears selected in these later rounds can eventually make it to some of those higher rounds. I mean, excuse me, make it into the rotation. So I think that that's one of those things to where you look at and you say, yeah, you went out there and went heavy on the defense in the last day of the NFL draft, but it might be kind of too late, in my personal opinion. I think that when you look at rounds 2, 3, and 4, the Chicago Bears had ample opportunity to go out there and potentially draft guys like a Grayson Holden out of Oklahoma. Go out there and draft a guy like Danny Dennis Sutton out of Penn State, so on and so forth. But I think at the end of the day, we have to go out there and trust the process. Go out there and look at the scheme for what it really is when it comes on the defensive side of the ball. When you go out there and get Contavious Street, when you go out there and sign James Lynch, when you go out there and sign Gallimore, you look at those players that came in and you have to take a back seat and look at the coaching staff and say, hey, this is probably what they actually wanted. Not necessarily game changers, but guys that can go out there and be effective during a rotation of defensive linemen throughout the duration of a game. I know it's not the sexiest names. I know it's not the big names that myself and a lot of you all have picked out during your mock drafts, but it's one of those things to where you look at it and you just have to chalk it up to the game. Hopefully, hopefully we can go out there and have a better defense than what we had last year, down in the lower half of the 20s, and potentially move up in the rankings as a defensive unit. I think that's very, very important. We'll see what happens with that. And I think that's one of those crucial things that we're just going to have to wait until the season rolls around to where we can either praise or criticize this front office and this coaching staff with the players that were brought on to this team. But as of right now, the Chicago Bears bring in a cornerback, they bring in a linebacker, they bring in an additional defensive tackle, and we'll see what transpires out of that. We'll see what's to come with those selections included into some of those off-season signings that the Chicago Bears made. And then we'll have to draw our conclusions at that time. But as of right now, to finish day 3, the Chicago Bears only bring in 3 defensive players. I don't necessarily believe it's enough, but I'm going to sit back and trust the process. You have guys like cornerback Malik Muhammad. You have a linebacker in Keshan Elliott. You have a defensive tackle in Jordan Vandenberg. And we'll see if they could potentially affect the success of this team. But hey, that is it for me, man. Just bringing y'all the latest around day 3 of the NFL draft. I appreciate y'all for tuning in to another episode. Go ahead and make sure that you go ahead and chime in and leave your thoughts to the voicemail. Myself and C Dub will be doing a voicemail back episode tomorrow. So, in breaking it all down and listening to you all and giving your thoughts for the NFL draft for our team. So, make sure you go ahead and call in and do so. The number to do so is 773-242-9336. We appreciate y'all. Make sure you always love the Chicago Bears, man. And as we always say, shot town up and bear down. And y'all already know we're going to catch y'all on the next one for sure. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.